You're sitting in the waiting room, flipping through a lab report, and your eyes land on a line you don't fully understand. The doctor mentions your kidney numbers are a little higher than we'd like, says it's nothing urgent, and moves on to the next topic. But you don't move on. You go home and that phrase sits with you all evening. That quiet, not quite sick but not quite fine worry is something a lot of people over 60 carry silently, because kidneys don't complain loudly until they've already been struggling for a while. There's no dramatic symptom pointing you toward the problem early on. Just a slow accumulation of small signs that are easy to blame on getting older, on a bad night's sleep, or on simply having a long day, when sometimes they're actually your kidneys quietly asking for a little more support. So let's start with the first one, because it's probably already in your fridge right now: yogurt. And the reason it matters here isn't just the obvious one you're thinking of. Most people know yogurt for digestion, but for the kidneys, the story is a little different. Plain, unsweetened yogurt is naturally lower in sodium and phosphorus than many processed dairy products, and for kidneys that are already working hard, less sodium can mean less pressure pushing through those tiny filtering units. Some research also points to the probiotics in yogurt playing a role in how the body processes waste before it even reaches the kidneys, which may lighten their load just slightly. There's a second reason it earns a spot on this list: protein. As we age, the body still needs protein to maintain muscle, but too much of the wrong kind, especially heavily processed red meat, can put extra strain on kidney filtration over time. Plain yogurt offers a gentler, easier to process source of protein, which is part of why so many nutrition guidelines for older adults quietly include it. That's not a cure, and it's not a guarantee. Think of it more like giving an overworked employee one less task on their desk. The word doctors tend to repeat here is plain. Flavored, sugary yogurt cups often carry hidden phosphorus additives that work against the very benefit you're looking for, so the plain version is the one worth reaching for, maybe with a little cinnamon or a few berries stirred in instead of sugar. And if you're thinking, "I've never liked plain yogurt, it's too sour for me," that's a fair point a lot of people raise, and the fix is usually simple: a drizzle of honey, some cinnamon, or a handful of the next food on this list stirred right in, so it never has to taste like a chore. Now here's where it gets interesting, because the second food on this list works almost like a cleanup crew: blueberries. Blueberries are small, but they carry one of the highest antioxidant concentrations of any common fruit, and antioxidants matter here because the kidneys filter blood constantly, all day, every day, which means they're exposed to more oxidative stress than almost any other organ in the body. Some studies suggest that the anthocyanins responsible for that deep blue color may help reduce inflammation in kidney tissue over time. And this is the part most people don't expect: blueberries are also naturally low in potassium and phosphorus compared to many other fruits, which is exactly the combination nutritionists tend to recommend for people watching their kidney health after 60. Quick question for you: do you actually know how much potassium is hiding in the fruit you eat most often? Most people don't, and that's exactly why blueberries quietly stand out, because you get flavor and antioxidants without the mineral overload that heavier fruits can carry. Fresh is always the first choice, but frozen blueberries hold on to most of their antioxidant value, too, which matters if fresh ones aren't always easy to find or afford. A frozen bag tossed into oatmeal or a smoothie works just as well for this purpose. And this is really the point worth sitting with for a second, right in the middle of this list. It's rarely one dramatic change that protects your kidneys as you get older. It's usually the small, boring, repeated choices, the ones nobody posts about online, that quietly add up over months and years. A handful of blueberries a few times a week, nothing extreme, nothing you need to measure with a scale. Keep that in mind as we move into the next two, because they follow the exact same pattern. Moving on to the third one, and this is where things get a little bold, quite literally: garlic. Garlic has been used in traditional cooking and traditional medicine for centuries, but modern research has started catching up to why it earned that reputation. It contains a compound called allicin, which some studies suggest may help support already healthy blood pressure levels, and blood pressure is deeply connected to kidney health, because elevated blood pressure is one of the leading contributors to kidney strain over time. When blood pressure stays in a healthier range, the tiny blood vessels inside the kidneys don't have to work as hard against that constant pressure, day after day. Garlic is also naturally low in potassium, which makes it a flavorful way to season food without relying heavily on salt, something a lot of people over 60 are quietly trying to cut back on anyway, even if no one ever told them exactly why. There's also early research looking at garlic's role in supporting healthy circulation more broadly, which matters because good circulation is part of what keeps the kidneys properly nourished with oxygen-rich blood. Just a clove or two, added while cooking, is enough. No supplements, no extremes, just a small shift in how a meal gets flavored, swapping the salt shaker for a little fresh garlic more often than not. And if the worry is won't that make everything taste too strong, a light sauté in a little olive oil mellows garlic's sharpness considerably while still keeping most of its benefits intact, so it blends into a dish rather than overpowering it. And now the fourth and final one, which might be the most underrated vegetable in the entire produce aisle, cauliflower. Cauliflower is one of those vegetables that rarely gets the spotlight, but for kidney health specifically, it checks almost every box nutritionists tend to look for. It's naturally low in potassium and phosphorus, both minerals that can build up in the blood when kidney function starts to decline, and it's rich in vitamin C along with compounds that may support the body's natural detoxification processes. Unlike some other vegetables that are actually quite mineral-dense and harder for weaker kidneys to manage, cauliflower stays gentle while still being filling and satisfying on the plate. It's also incredibly versatile, mashed as a lighter alternative to potatoes, roasted with a little of the garlic we just talked about, or added to soups for texture without the heaviness. Some people avoid it thinking it's bland, but with the right seasoning, it easily becomes one of the more satisfying vegetables at dinner, without working against the kidneys the way some heavier, mineral-dense vegetables can. It's also a good source of fiber, and fiber plays a quiet but meaningful role in this whole picture too, since it supports regular digestion and helps the body eliminate waste products through a second pathway, taking a small amount of pressure off the kidneys as the body's primary filtration system. If there's one point out of everything covered here that's worth remembering above the rest, it's this: no single food on this list is doing the heavy lifting alone. The point that's often missed is that these 4 foods work best as a pattern, not a one-time fix, replacing processed, high-sodium, high-phosphorus options with these gentler, kidney-friendlier choices consistently over weeks and months. That consistency is where the real difference tends to show up, far more than any single superfood ever could, and it's also worth remembering that these foods work alongside good habits, not instead of them, things like staying hydrated and keeping regular checkups, not as a replacement for either. Water genuinely matters here too, even the gentlest foods can't do much if the body isn't getting enough fluid to help the kidneys flush things through properly, so pairing these choices with steady hydration throughout the day tends to matter just as much as the foods themselves. None of this means overhauling every meal overnight either, even swapping one processed snack a day for a small bowl of plain yogurt with blueberries, or cooking one dinner a week with garlic and cauliflower instead of heavier sides, is the kind of realistic starting point that actually sticks, rather than an all-or-nothing plan that fades out after a week or two. And that gradual approach is really the quiet thread running through everything covered today: yogurt for gentler protein and lower sodium, blueberries for antioxidant support with minimal mineral load, garlic for its role in healthy blood pressure and circulation, and cauliflower for staying filling without burdening kidneys that are already working hard. For separate foods, one shared purpose: making daily eating a little easier on organs that rarely get thanked for the work they do, even though they've been quietly keeping everything else in balance for decades. If this kind of information feels useful to you, or to someone you know who's over 60 and thinking more seriously about long-term health, hitting subscribe helps this channel keep bringing these kinds of breakdowns to more people who actually need them. And here's a simple one to answer down in the comments: out of these 4, which one do you already eat regularly: yogurt, blueberries, garlic, or cauliflower? If you're curious about more everyday foods that may support healthy aging, there's another video on this channel covering exactly that, and it's worth checking out right after this one. It walks through a few more everyday choices that fit the same gentle, no extremes approach as the 4 foods covered here today. So to sum it up simply, yogurt, blueberries, garlic, and cauliflower are 4 ordinary, accessible foods that research suggests may gently support kidney health as you move through your 60s and beyond. Small changes, kept up consistently, tend to outlast any short-term fix. Take care of yourself the same quiet way your kidneys have been taking care of you all along.